And so we're going to continue our chat with scatterplots here. And so hence here comes the three colors needed. So let me grab mine here. I'm not going to color completely. If you got markers, you can. I'm just, since I only got pens, I'm going to just kind of do one of these. So we're looking to see if we have positive, negative, or no correlation as far as some of these go. Now, some of them are going to have pictures for us, which is nice. Because then again, we can look, if our data seems to go up to the right, we got positive correlation. Down to the right, we kind of have negative. And if it's just all over the place, well, there's really none at all. And so what we're going to do is we're going to mess with a few of these. I'm going to kind of get a start with some stuff. And try to get a feel for some of the things that we were doing yesterday. Some of you are flying on me already here, which is a good thing. So that first one, might as well start there. That first one, do you see some correlation in that? And if you do, what direction are we heading? It's a negative because we're heading downward here. So with mine, I'm just going to kind of put those extra lines in. Definitely not lines of best fit, but it lets me kind of color coordinate here. What about the second one next to it? Whole bunch of nada. That's right. I couldn't put a line in the middle that would make that fit if I tried my very best. So the top ones are just kind of doing the things with the dots. Now, as we get down lower, that gets a little more interesting because this one I might have to start thinking about, or I might even have to make myself some little pictures if I think I need to here. So the number of payments made on a car and the amount owed on the loan. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to make myself a quick little mini drawing here. So when you buy a car, you have all the payments left to make. Okay, so we're way up here, and I owe all the money on the car still. So at the start I've made, so if I'm thinking about payments and the amount I owe, so let's see. No payments, I owe a lot of money. Bless you. As I go, as the number of payments start to get more, I start to owe less money because every time I pay a little, I owe a little less. Until I finally get to the end, where I make my last payment and I owe no money. So I kind of look and I'm like, oh, that kind of is heading downward. So it would be negative. But on the other hand, let's say we were doing this one a little more towards the middle here. The weight of the bananas and the cost. Okay, so I'm buying bananas at the store here. And I got to see how much they cost. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. If I don't buy many bananas, it's not going to cost me very much. But as I buy more, the weight's going to go up, which means the cost is going to go up. And like if I'm trying to feed everybody bananas here, I'm making fancy desserts or a fruit salad or something, I come out, my cost is going to get a lot more. And it's going to go up. So on this part of the bottom, maybe you can just eyeball it. If you can eyeball it, more power to you. But making just a little drawing, and like we talked about yesterday, the first thing that you see, let me write that on here instead of walking away. The first part that you see would be on your x-axis. And the second part that you see is going to be on your y. So our payments the money we owe. Or over here, the weight of the bananas. What's that? Sure. Oh. So they'll always be in the same order. They're not going to mix you up on order to try and mess with things, which will be a nice thing as we're trying to work on those. So that's all about correlation, and that's it. You know, is it going up as we go to the right? Is it going down as we go to the right? Or is it just everywhere? And you'll get a nice little mix of those in that first spot. So the colors can kind of help label one piece versus another. So kind of sticking with the coloring theme here. And this is where, again, it's going to be a little trickier, and I'll explain why on this next part. I'm making sure I'm thinking of the right sheet. That's why I'm kind of going ahead. Yep, that's what I got. Okay. So when we do get over to the next spot, we're still doing some correlation stuff, and I'll come back here in a moment if I need to. I can absolutely do that. Just want to mention, though, so as we get over here, this is talking about very specific colors for things. That's why I said you might need up to 7, but you may have to do coloring a little bit differently depending on how you go. But like for instance here, even if you just do them and circle the answers and don't do the coloring, I'm cool. So for instance here, I see my dots. My dots are kind of going up this way, which looks like it would be positive. Okay, if you had a green at this point, if you're going into coloring mode, the picture over here, you would find all of your ones and you would color them that color. Now, if you don't have green, you can just change green to whatever color you want it to be. But just color all the ones the same color is what you're trying to do. So we could get some different looks here. And so, now, the thing that we threw in a little different, okay? Ooh, I changed one other thing here too. Okay, let's chat about these next two. I threw a term in here I didn't think I'd put on here. So identify the association of the scatter plot. You're like, okay, what is this stuff? Linear, nonlinear, and none. Linear would literally mean it goes in a straight line, basically. Like it would just be and go. That does not just go. This has kind of got. This has got a little bit of curve to it. So I'm going to help out on this one, as we kind of threw a little something weird in here. It would. It would absolutely be nonlinear blue. So all your number 2 is whatever color you have. If you have blue, you can use blue. That'd be great. If you do not have blue, whatever color you use for that, just make note of it there. We'll get that set. Now, we have talked about this next one before. Outliers, we didn't talk about on scatter plots, but we did do it on our dot plots, things like that. Outlier is our oddball. So you're looking at all those dots, they're all pretty much together, except for this stinker out here, doing its own thing. So you would have to, it looks like we're looking for the coordinate point. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's all we're kind of looking for there. The next 2, and I think it goes beyond that with it. It does. But the next 2 are you just using the chart, or the graph, excuse me, to figure out, use the trend line. So if they spend 30 minutes studying, you can just go studying and kind of work your way up until you run into the line, and then just follow the line over is all we're trying to do there. Good morning. Okie dokie, thank you. And so I can follow that over. I get my 70. I go on with my business. So lots of good uses for scatter plots here. Not just for kind of throwing some numbers down, throwing a bunch of plots everywhere and being good. And I think that can be dangerous when I think sometimes. All right, scatter plot. Got that. Ooh, okay. One thing I want to add in this next part, and then I think we're going to be all right. So I get to this next part, and I go, all right, so we got a scatter plot. That's cool. Concession stands, the temperature, all that other stuff. But it starts asking me about the y-intercept and the slope, which means, ooh, I need an equation. Bless you. So when I need an equation, there's a couple of things I could do. Do I really want to do and put in every single one of these points? There's almost 20 points there. Do I want to put all those in my calculator to make this equation? I'm not sure I do. What I could do is I could wing it, but I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be helpful here. I like to be helpful. I am going to assist here. I'm going to be the crazy person that puts all of these points in for you because I just don't want you to have to deal with this. So give me one moment. People watching this later are like, this dude is nuts. Sometimes I am. It's true. And so what you could do otherwise, and I'll show you this, just in case you're dealing with these at some point down the road. What we can do is we can make what's called a line of best fit without the calculator, which means we're going to try, and everybody's would be a little bit different. We're going to try our best to get a line drawn through here. I'm going to use a pencil. That's going to go through the middle of our data and give us about the same number of points above and below our line. If we go this way, I'm trying to get about 10 on each side. So let's see. So see, there's some science to this too. Math is not just about cranking out numbers all the time. Sometimes, let's see how I did here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 above. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not bad. That's not bad. So we're just trying to get half and a half here. So if I extend that, so what am I trying to attempt with this? So I look. This is where it can get a little bit deeper, where you're kind of using this for a business thing. We're not going to go this crazy on like quizzes and stuff, but I like to introduce you to it. So what does the y-intercept, so this number over here when we get back to the axis, best represent? All right, let's see here. The temperature when 0 hot chocolates are sold. No, that's a lot of hot chocolate. That's not 0, so it's not green. Hot chocolate sold on a day with a low of 0. Low of 0. That's a lot of hot chocolate, but I think that's it. Change the number of hot chocolate sold per degree. That'd be slow. So, again, if you're going colors, number 6, we're looking for that number of hot chocolates sold when our low temperature is 0. Now the slope, it's the same questions. When you see the number change, ever when you're talking about a line, change automatically is talking about your slope. That's going to be the easiest one to deal with here as we're doing it. And I'm trying to see if there's one other part. I want to give you one last answer because the rest of it, I checked the next page too. The rest of it, we should be good with what we did yesterday. The line of best fit in the scatter plot above, I actually did this in advance. I was starting to do it again, and I'm like, no, we don't need to do this. Your equation or your line of best fit is going to be this one. If I were to have typed all of those points in, every last one, and I'm probably going to pop it up here in a bit after I put it back in, that's what you would end up with, or the closest one that you would end up with. So remember, because it's going to ask you to use an equation to figure out the number of hot chocolates and things like that, just use your graph on these, okay? I know it says use the equation, but if you go up to the graph and you look at like 45 degrees and you come up, you're going to be able to figure out, if you follow that back over to the axis, which one of these numbers is going to be closest. That's an excellent use with your scatter plot here, and you kind of have a line that's going through here already for you. So you wouldn't have to go do any substituting or anything like that. So kind of play. There are answers online, so you can kind of check as you go. I will keep some keys up here in front too, if you want to see what's going on with stuff as you're going along, or you get stuck on something. That's where I'm here to help as well. So try some of these out for a bit.